Okay, welcome everybody back to Two Mediums and a Large. Right now, Ashley and I are going to get started because Robbie's off on a little business venture. But today we were thinking a cool topic would be to talk about dreams.
Mm.
Now, dreams, we all have dreams, right? But what does it mean? And I don't think neither me or you or Robbie has we know exactly what it is, but I'd love to hear what everyone's perspective is. So why don't you start?
I will actually. I was just actually talking about this. So I had an experience last evening, I guess this morning, where I was in a dream and it was quite a heavy dream. I won't go into details because I don't want to scare anyone, but it was one of those dreams where most people probably would find it kind of traumatizing, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm always conscientious of dreams like this because I do actually, I am certified and I'm still studying spirit release therapy. And one of the things we see when there's interference in someone's energetic and spiritual fields is sometimes there can be interference that actually makes it into the dream state of a client. So I woke up, I made sure, I cleared my entire field as well as my apartment just to make sure there was nothing, that was interfering with my energetic field. And everything was good. And I actually thought, you know what, I'm going to ask my guides what this was about. And so I'm sitting in the shower and I ask them, and I hear in my mind, this wasn't your dream. And I thought, what do you mean this isn't my dream? Like I was clearly there. Like I can recall it. I know exactly what happened. It felt so real. And they were like, that wasn't your dream. So, of course, inquiring minds need to know. And I said, well, what does this mean? And just for the viewers out there, spirit for me doesn't always, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, Lara, they don't always communicate in the same ways. So I might get one, if I'm doing a reading, I might get one piece of evidence that I can hear from the communicator. I might get a vision. I might also just get like, it's almost like Dropbox for me, if you know that program.
Kind of
It's
like
like
a visitation dream.
the dream I had last night.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Because I don't even know the other person who was in that dream. But it didn't feel like a visitation dream. So I feel like it was actually, now that like I'm reflecting back on it, I think it was just for my own knowledge and expansion and understanding of spirituality and concepts. Kind of, I don't want to say ascension to the next level, but I feel like I'm trying to figure out how I can word this. I feel like it was a dream that was meant to expand my consciousness and my understanding of how communication in the field of awareness works, if I can say it that way.
Yeah.
So now I forget where I was even where I was
You
even
were
going with
telling
that. Oh yeah. So I got like that download that just it came right in and it's almost like they drop it in my mind. And it takes me a couple seconds to kind of, understand the information that has just been placed in my mind. And what they told me was actually quite profound. And, they said, this isn't your dream. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And they said, when we do, and just so everyone knows, when you go to sleep at night, I feel like I'm gonna like, totally like destroy someone's concept of reality with this episode. But when you go to sleep at night, we're in beta state right now. This is science. This is what happens when your body goes into sleep mode. We drop from beta into alpha, into theta, into delta, and then we go into REM sleep. That same process, although we don't go into delta or REM when we're channeling or accessing spirit or connecting with guides, but we are dropping into alpha state. And then if you're going into a light trance or even a deeper trance, you are going into theta state. So you're actually following that same, I guess, mechanism, if I can say it that way, when you are connecting to source. And they said, so this wasn't your dream, but it was someone else's. And the reason why that's actually possible is because everything exists in that one field of awareness. Everyone's dreams, human consciousness, it all exists in that one field of awareness. And you can actually experience dreams that are, I guess, yours, but not you, because it's an alternate version of you in an alternate dimension or reality. You can access those dreams as well as your own in this body in this timeline. But you can also access everyone else's dreams. So I was actually an observer in a dream that wasn't even mine, which was, I mean, I've never had that happen. But
Yeah, that's interesting.
hmm
That, dreams are something that always get me because it's like I feel like there's so much information on them out there, but yet
so
I
little
don't really
understanding.
resonate with everything that I've read because I'm like, on one hand, like I thoroughly believe that when you are dreaming, you are in a different realm. I believe you are in different dimensions, different realms. And I say this because my experiences don't feel like just dreams.
Hmm.
Obviously, I've had a lot of visitation dreams. That's when spirit finds the best time to work with me and to help me almost ascend higher is
Hmm.
during my dream state, right? Because all of that ego is kind of put aside and like it can really just penetrate your subconscious, right? And I find that I've had, okay, I have a lot of dreams, and I know I talk to you all the time about it. I'm like, oh my God, I dreamt about this. What does it mean? Um, but there's this one dream that I remember, and this was when I was like really in like the thick of my development. Okay.
Mm.
I wasn't doing my grounding before bed. I was like, don't need to do this. Like, I'm just tired. Once I opened up to spirit, I wasn't actually able to go to sleep at night the same way I was before because it was like all of a sudden, it's like I had this big open sign on my head. Right. And when I went to bed every night, it was like, no, now we're going to be next level, So I would go to sleep and I remember waking up and I was like, what the F was that? Okay. I was literally felt like I was going on like a journey around my neighborhood, my outside, my cul-de-sac, just up the road around the corner, but everything looked the same, but slightly different. And
Hmm.
I remember I was like, everything looked like rubble, like almost like something had like came and exploded it. And I was like, what is this place? Like it looks like my my area. For some reason, dreams are dreams and we end up with like a little bit of weird shit happening in them. And I was like in a go-kart or what looked like a go-kart, essentially like cruising down these streets. But here's the part where I think, your wacky dreams kind of meets the spirit world because all of a sudden I was in actually this actually does exist just up the road from me. It's like a back path, okay? Like a path right in the back of like some houses leads you to another street. And I was in this and I can still see it. And I know when I can still see it this vividly that this really happened. This was real in another level, another
Yeah.
dimension. And when I went through, this man was standing there, and I remember his outfit, I remember his height, I remember everything. And he was just kind of standing there looking at the ground, almost like he was smoking on the side, like leaning on something smoking.
Okay.
And I remember going to him and we made eye contact. And the second we made eye contact, I was like, oh no. He looked at me and he started following me like he was on a mission to come to me. And I woke up and I was in extreme panic. And I was like, what was that? Now, so we would think of this as nightmare, right? Just a
Hmm.
nightmare. I know that was spirit. I know I was in the lower astral realm.
Yep.
And that's why this sticks with me as vividly. And when you have a dream and you see something so vividly, you know that you experienced that, your soul experienced that, maybe your physical self didn't, but your soul experienced that. And that, like, you think of space, we have different realms, different dimensions, like literally anything is possible. So this was not that far-fetched for, when we sleep, I believe we go to different realms. And I can go on and on because I have all sorts of wacky dreams that feel like they were real, and I believe that.
I know it's crazy. I feel like a lot of people, when I tell them my dreams, and I've had that actual belief for quite a few years now, that when I am dreaming, I am going into alternate realities and timelines. I always thought it was my own. Because I always explain to people our higher self, our soul is actually like a pie. And then this incarnation, so Ashley
Yes.
Page in this life is a slice of that pie, but there are multiple slices of pies pretty much in my belief system, and I know this is also true in physics, like quantum physics, is that every situation that happens or doesn't happen, it like fans out and creates like an unlimited amount of lives and choices. So like I could, turn off my computer right now and there's a reality where that is true, right? And there's another reality where I'm, here still talking as a, simplistic example. And I feel like, when I talk to people, I used to have, I guess I could say more I don't want to say simplistic because I don't want to downplay dreams, but I feel like as I've developed spiritually, my dreams have increased in complexity, if I can say it that way. And it's almost
Yes, I
like,
can agree with that.
right? It's like I feel like I'm almost astral traveling and I'm going into alternate dimensions and realities and the dreams that I'm having. Sometimes I'm with people from this lifetime that I know, but then I'm also with other people, but I feel like I know them, but it's like I don't know who you are in this reality.
You know what, though, that I've noticed? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's
That
okay.
more and more people are actually having these crazier dreams than we think. It's not
Mm.
just us, because a lot of clients that I work with, after we've kind of like established that there's like a lot of spiritual things kind of going on for them, literally their dreams are as wacky as the way we're describing it. So
It
I
makes
think
me feel
everyone's
good.
going through like this kind of awakening, right? And everyone's just kind of like working their belief systems out, right? Sorry,
Yeah,
go
because
on.
I miss those days. I miss those days where, I'd have a simple dream like, I'm walking down the street, going to the store, getting a bag of milk, nothing really exciting's happening.
Did
Most
you
of the
do that in
time.
your dreams?
No,
Get
I'm
milk?
just I'm just using that as an example. But I feel like now it's like it's like going when I go to sleep at night, it's like watching a movie, but in like a version of me in an alternate reality. So they're more complex than just like a simplistic, oh, I was walking down the street and went to the park, right? There's a theme, there's, you know, a meaning to it. There's more depth to it, if I can say it that way. At least it feels that way. So.
You know what? I love when like you're having this dream and all of a sudden your loved ones pop into this dream that have passed on and you know that they are there.
Let's talk
Now
about that.
I've had this instance. I'm going to tell you of a couple really quickly. So just this most recent one, I was literally having this dream that I was walking through this house and all of a sudden there's my grandmother, from spirit. And I knew it was her in the dream. I knew she was spirit in the dream. I knew my interaction with her. And she's like walked past, smiled at me, like you felt her love. And then she just kind of walked around the corner and she disappeared like in ghost state. Like how a ghost would disappear. She did this in my dream. I knew it was spirit. I had a good friend pass away. And I think the night that I found out he passed away or the next day or something, I had this dream and it was so real. I will still, and he's validated this in ratings for me, that this was a real experience. We were running literally through the clouds together. And like he looked at me, I could hear him breathing. It was such a real experience. It felt as real as life, right? And knew that was a visitation. Now, here's where things get tricky is I used to have so many premonition dreams. Those have kind of shifted, but I remember this one person that I dreamt about the next day, woke up to find out they passed. And I'm like, this person wasn't in my immediate circle. This is from like many years ago. It's just kind of weird how that happens, those kind of premonition dreams. Like dreams really feel like the door that just unlocks everything conscious, every belief system that you could possibly have. It's like you literally anything is possible. And I believe that all is real in it, you know?
Yep, I agree. Especially with that response back. And just so the viewers can understand this too, I feel like this is just also a message for confirmation. And it's a good practice. I actually teach people this when I do like intuitive development sometimes. It depends too on where you are in your path, but I get in the habit of when I'm in the shower in the morning, I like to clear my field because I just find I love water. I find it naturally easy just to cleanse in the shower, using that visualization of just, everyone else's gunk, coming off and going down the drain and,
I
being
do that too.
cleansed by the light of God, you know. And one of the practices I used to do a lot, but I'm actually really starting to refine my techniques and my practice. And so I've started implementing this again. And I know Suzanne Giesman calls it like sip of the divine, and it's 3 minutes, connecting with your team or source or God, however, your belief system works, and asking them what, you need to know today. And, I asked them today, like about that dream. And for me, I would have never thought of that answer. It wasn't my dream. And I just remember being like astounded when they said that. And I asked again, and then they told me that wasn't your dream. And I feel like, when you get those, when you can sit in that quiet space and almost like empty your mind, but allow whatever spirit wants to share with you to just drop in. and it doesn't come in forced. You're not thinking about it. It's not rushed. Intuition is calm. It's almost like peaceful in a sense. And it's like, it almost comes in unsuspecting. And it's just that it just pops in and then you know. So I feel like anyone out there that wants to develop their intuition, that is a really good practice to get into. I always tell people, foundations is, clearing or grounding, clearing, protecting your field, and then learning how to connect and build that relationship with your guides. But I feel like someone who's going to watch this episode needed to hear that piece today about, how do I distinguish between my own thoughts and what's coming in from like my team or spirit or God or the universe. And a lot of times it will come in and you don't even think about it. It's like whoop, just drops right in and it's calm and it's peaceful. And then you can expand on that. And that's why I asked that question. Well, what do you mean by that? So, and then being open to what comes through.
That's true. Intuition can be very subtle. It's not like this big
It is.
nagging sign.
I
It's
think
just
people think that, right? They think it's going to be this like huge production, like the door is going to like, because you watch movies and TV and stuff, right? And the way the medium makes it seem is that it's this, grandiose, experience, which I mean, I guess in some, I can only speak from my own experience, but for me, I agree with you. I feel like, when spirit connects, it's very subtle. And it's just about,
I feel like all of that TV and like all of that stuff that we see on TV and stuff is
it's
honestly my
fear-based.
little bit of conspiracist coming out is that it's all made to move us away from our power and all made to move us away from trusting our intuition and stuff. Because if we had less of that kind of noise in our life, we'd probably be a
Mhm.
lot stronger and a lot further along as like an entirety of the world, right? We would all be trusting our intuition more and we wouldn't be being led by, governments. Anyways, that's for another time. Um, what I wanted to ask is I'm interested to know, do you think people can link up in their dreams? And I only say this because I've had like 1 week's worth of dreams where literally it was just me and my son. And
Okay.
we're very connected, but we were going through this dream, and I was like, I was always with him. And literally, I'm almost never with my daughter in a dream, but I'm always linked up with my son. So I don't know if that's like a subconscious thing about me or it's a relationship thing. Like, here's me spreading my vulnerabilities on online. But yeah, I was like almost thinking, like, do we link up in dreams and just kind of go down dream world together?
I would say that's possible because I think, like what we said earlier, right? Anything is possible in that field of awareness, right? Because how do I explain this?
I never link up and hang out with my husband. He sleeps right next to me.
I know. I've actually never, now that you're saying this, I mean, there are certain people that I do dream about, or I should say they appear in my dreams more frequently than other people. But I do think it's possible to link up with, because we're dropping into that field of consciousness. That is what's happening. Your mind is dropping into those, I don't say lower states, but they are lower, or I should say, longer brain wave states, right? And you're going and you're relaxing and then you're falling into sleep. So you're going into an altered state. And you are accessing the one field of awareness. So I think it's totally possible to link up with someone else in the dream state. I would be interested if we set an intention and try it to like meet each other.
I've
What
said
would
this. I was like,
happen?
we should set and yeah, we should set an
Right?
intention and go into meditation at the same time and see if we can like write down our experiences to each other and see if they all kind of match. I've said
Yeah,
this. I thought that'd just be like a fun little experiment. Like other people might be like, wow, these people are a little bit crazy, but
I've
I just
never done it, but I've heard of it working. So I wouldn't be surprised if it
where did you hear
actually
that?
just in like my Reiki class with a bunch of people that I took that course
Oh,
with, they were saying like they had experiences where they were doing group meditations and they all saw either like the same spirit or the same deity appear. And they all had very similar experiences because they talked about it afterwards. So it's interesting when especially with like, I feel like the group energy, I feel like, you build that connection with those people. So I feel like it's probably even, I don't know, I feel like it would work. I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say yes to that too, because I feel like everything is literally intention. So you literally can do anything as long as you have the intention to do it. And,
Yeah. And everything's interconnected. So I feel like that would be possible. Yeah.
I'd love to hear what Robbi thinks, but
I know. I've had some visitation dreams too. And just for the viewers, I feel, and I know we've talked about this too. For me personally, I feel like a visitation dream isn't a long, drawn out dream. It's going to be something that's very quick. It's going to, come in a flash. I've had, there's two that I can, actually three, four that I can specifically remember. And it is, you see that person very clearly, you know exactly who that person is. And it is a quick, message of like, I'm over here, I'm safe, I love you. And then I've also gotten to messages for other people, but I have actually never relayed them because those people don't hold the same beliefs as I do. So
mhm.
unfortunately, I wasn't able to share those messages, but it is definitely something that I have experienced, and it's usually quite quick. It feels literally like a minute
Yeah,
or two, and
like
then
I
it
said, like
passes.
my grandmother one, she popped in just for a minute, like
Mhm.
around the corner. No, you know what's crazy though is like sometimes I have these dreams where um it's like I know that there's a negative kind of energy around or low vibrational energy around when I'm sleeping. And it's like I don't know how to describe this without sounding kind of nuts. It's like my body is asleep, but my consciousness knows. And like I can immediately identify,
Mhm.
like, hey, they're not supposed to be here in my dream.
Yeah.
And I know I say it to them. And sometimes like I can just feel the energies off because of the way the dream is going. And it just feels very sinister, very negative, and like somehow like nothing bad's ever happened, but a couple of them I've woken up and I just felt like uneasy and I was like, no, somebody's
Mhm.
here that's not supposed to be here. Maybe I didn't do my proper closing down, whatever that is. Um, it's actually kind of nuts, but just recently I had told you about a dream about somebody, and I'm still trying to figure this out. I feel like as mediums, we can kind of get afraid of the dream state because there's times where premonitions actually come out true, and sometimes it's just a dream, right?
Mhm.
And I noticed it gives me a little anxiety at night, some of the things I dream about. Like just recently I had dreamt about like very old kind of childhood friend. And I heard their voice and I woke up and I was like, last time this happened, I woke up and somebody had died,
Mhm.
and I actually don't think there's any way for me to find out anything about this person at this point. So I can't validate this to myself anyways. But it's always something that gives me like a little bit of minor anxiety. Because if I dream something bad about somebody I love in a dream, I'm like immediately on edge the next day. And I'm like, okay.
Gonna think
And
it's
thank
gonna happen.
goodness, knock on wood, nothing's ever happened when it comes to the people I love. But you know what I mean? I think that for mediums and stuff like that, it can be really debilitating to like know that you may be able to sense something before it happens, right?
Mm-hmm. And it is scary. I mean, I've never, as far as I can recollect, I haven't really experienced too many premonition dreams where I've had like, a vision and then it came true. However, I have had, which is interesting, this is coming up now. I have had dreams where my dad has passed away several times. One of them was actually in an alternate reality in the future where I was, it sounds absolutely bizarre, but I was on a
My
spaceship.
goodness.
And and I won't go into like the details of the dream because you probably are going to think I'm all nuts, but um there was my dad. And it's like I could see him, but it's also the vibration of someone. So it's like I know it's that person, right? It's not just the visual, it's the vibration, it's their essence that I know. And that dream was, I just remember waking up and thinking like, oh my God, like how am I dreaming about the future? But technically, the future exists right here, right now. It's already happened and it will happen again if I can say it that way, right? Because there is technically, at least in my belief system, there is no future or past. It's just right here, right now. And that's why everything can exist in that one field. And that's why you can access everything in that
Totally.
one field.
Um, yeah, that's a good point. Sorry.
But it's
Where's Rob?
scary. I don't know. I don't think he's coming back. So we're just gonna continue. But it definitely can be scary for people, right? Especially if you have dreams like you do, where, you're experiencing someone, passing away and then it actually ends up being true,
Yeah.
right? So,
Well,
like,
thank goodness that that's not the norm of dreams, but I would love to know like how other people kind of experience this. If people can like contact us and just kind of, let
mhm.
us know sort of your experiences when we post this. I would love to know how this works because it's always been a topic that fascinated me so much, right?
You know what the worst dream is?
Hmm. What?
when you win the lottery and then
And then
you
you wake
wake
up and you're
up.
like, still broke,
Right?
still broke. Like, can we at least have that one come true?
Right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like I remember that happened to me once. I think and it was only like 80, I don't know, it was like 80 grand or something. But I was like, yes, and I was so happy and I woke up and I was like, man, like that wasn't
Why
real,
can't
but
we live
I
in that reality?
yeah, right. I'm like, well, in some reality that did happen. So,
You know what, though?
like
This is the thing about this is why it's hard for me to understand. Like we're not all knowing in any capacity. And when you say like the piece of the pie, and we each
yeah,
have like little pieces of us living in different realities, why is it that we always continue to wake up in this reality though? Like,
I
why
know.
why do we only access those realities in dreams? And that's where some of my doubts
Hmm.
kind of creep in because I'm like, if we live in that reality, technically shouldn't we be able to shift to that reality? And there's like meditations that kind of talk about like shifting realities, like does that actually work? Is it like a subtle transition? Like, I don't know.
I think it would be too confusing. Like the image that I got there from spirit or my guides, I should say, was I almost feel like you're tethered in a sense. Like there's this cord that like it's like your soul and your body in this existence are tethered because it would be too I'm trying to think of how I can explain this. It's like too overwhelming for like the body if we were to wake up and you know what I mean in all these like alternate realities in different bodies. I feel like it would distort the human experience that you're here to have in this lifetime if I can say it that way. But that's how they kind of showed me. It was like it was almost like your soul is kind of like tethered to your body in this physical existence, but it's part of a bigger whole if I can say it that way. But your body is I guess tethered to this soul's experience in this timeline. It's very fascinating. I feel like we only scratch the surface on
Always.
understanding
Every
what
time you
this
ask a question,
physical,
you get like 10 more questions kind of coming up.
right?
And I think
Yeah.
it's important for the listeners to know that, like, just because we do this work doesn't mean we know everything. We're literally just trying to figure things out like everybody else. And, this is just part of the process. Like, and I think we go through so many different existences to try
Hmm.
to learn about, you know,
Hmm.
the world and stuff like that. Robbi and I were having this conversation just a couple days ago on a call, and what was it he was talking about? Oh, I brought it up. I was talking about the possibility of the Matrix. Okay.
Mm,
Now,
love it.
my husband's always like, apparently he's a very conspiracist. So he's always like, that's apparently the most likely thing that kind of goes on. And it's hard for me to kind of understand that because I look at everything from a more spiritual standpoint. He's a bit more like sciency. And I find that there's room for both to exist. So
Hmm.
the thing is like, apparently it is true that like we could be in a simulation. Now,
Yeah.
that sounds like the very most likely scenario. And Robbi, I wish he was on here so he could tell us like all these things he knows about. But like we got like so giddy and excited talking about this because it was like mind blown like every second. What do you think about that? Do you think that it's possible that we are living in a simulation?
I do. And I remember being a kid and I remember thinking like, what if we're just puppets on somebody's string in a shoebox?
But
And I
who's
was probably
controlling us?
right? And I was like probably 6 years old, And I was like, most kids are scared of like the monster in the closet. I'm thinking about like if aliens are landing in the backyard and like, being abducted at like 6 years old. So I feel like I've always kind of had these thoughts. And then I remember I was probably like 14. I'm gonna age myself right now. I was probably like 14 when The Matrix came out. And I remember being so excited because I was like, yes, there are other people out there that think just like I think. Because I always knew in the sense too that like there's more than what you see. Like this is just an illusion. I didn't have the understanding that I have now, but back then I knew it's like I could feel it in my soul. I'm like, and that's, I've talked about that actually in my episode about how I've been aware of spirit since I was a child. And it's because I've always had this deep internal knowing that there's more. Do I think that it is a simulation? Yes. In a sense, yes, because I feel like this is like an avatar, I guess you could say like your physical body in this lifetime is like an avatar,
I feel like
right?
we
So it's
live in
like
like Sims.
Yeah, like in your soul, right, is
Like
like
everything's just
incarnating in that, so like the physical world is a simulation, right? So yeah, I agree with that. I do.
honestly, that's not even the weirdest thing that I've ever questioned. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you think this is a far-fetched question, but I feel like this is one of the more sane scenarios that have gone
Hmm.
off in my head. Like, I literally believed in Gerald the dolphin. So, like, I was believing that there
Okay.
was dolphins under. Did you not hear about Gerald the dolphin?
No, I don't know what that is. That
You're
like the whole
kidding.
civilization
This was
under the
all over
crust?
there. This was all over TikTok. That
Oh, that's
apparently this guy.
why.
Yeah, yeah, because you're not on TikTok. Get on TikTok.
Not
It's
yet.
actually so interesting. So this guy had like I don't know where it was, Florida, probably Florida, right? Of all places, had been found on the beach or something apparently. And don't mark my words on the story. I don't know it to a T, but he had apparently washed up and he was like doing like geometric shapes and whatever in the fucking sand. The police had came and he had sworn that he was taken underwater by dolphins and made to build a civilization or whatever towns underwater. And TikTok was going nuts over this because this
Mm.
guy was then brought in to the hospital, I think, and he had been like consistent with underwater symptoms that were
Oh,
found deep
wow.
underwater, but he hadn't drowned. Apparently, the dolphin like had made like a bubble or something around it. Now, this sounds absolutely nuts, right? But at the same time, people were like pointing out that oh my God, I feel like I'm gonna like lose friends over this. People were like pointing out that this guy had like a degree in like underwater kind of, I don't know, construction, some shit like that.
Okay.
And he, how do I find the words for this? Apparently, it's illegal to swim with dolphins and associate with dolphins now. And it has been for quite
Really?
some time. So it made this whole kind of scenario be like, I
Hmm.
don't know. Like, is it possible? I honestly believe, like, I believe in Bigfoot. I believe maybe Gerald the Dolphins kind of made me think twice. I'm like,
Loch Ness.
I jumped on the bandwagon a little bit. Um, Mermaids, maybe. Like, I don't know. And here, yeah, everybody, meet me, conspiracist and
You're
totally
so
gullible.
funny.
But
I'm gonna go totally off like center here. Tupac and Biggie, are they alive or or are they dead? Oh my
I've
God.
seen, Robbie's gonna be like, oh my God, I left them to the podcast.
This is what they do. Oh, I love it.
Tupac. I've seen pictures of a guy that looks like Tupac somewhere.
I always
And I'm like,
believed he was alive, but Biggie, no. I think Biggie's passed, but I always kind of, I don't know. Tupac, I'm like, no,
I don't know. Tupac,
you're hiding out.
I think Tupac's hiding out. And then this brings me to Ruby's made this thing about how we've been through different timelines, essentially. So remember in 2012 how the world was set to really people thought the world was going to end. So
Mayan
there's been a
calendar.
thing, yeah, there's been a thing that we actually did apparently die and
True.
shift into a new timeline. Now, this might sound crazy, but apparently there's been like some asteroid or meteor or something supposed to be coming, and that the government knows about this and shifts us timelines, right? To try to avoid this. But in all timelines, it still hits us. So, anyways, this got us on to the Mandela effect, right? You've
Mm,
heard of the Mandela effect, all this crazy stuff that we remember that's now slightly different. So when we think about this and we're like, it actually kind of does make sense for all these weird little changes. You ever go outside and you're like, kind of feels like it's the 90s, but kind of feels like it's like we're in 2026. And you get like these little hints of like these weird kind of nostalgic feelings coming on. I feel like that's just a mix of timelines that like you're getting all these different impressions. That's why things are just, you know, I believe this is actually very likely with all these like CERN and all these government things that are created, right? Are you
yeah,
looking?
keep going. No,
I
I'm
look
with
like
you.
I've lost you
No,
here.
no, I was just listening. My mind was going. I'm like, I was thinking about actually, I'm like, well, all timelines converge technically at every moment anyways, right? So it's
Yeah,
like I
like
feel like when you make that choice, it shifts your vibration. So technically those could all be correct in reality, right? I
this
was
is
thinking about that.
I honestly believe that this is possible, that we've been switching timelines, and that's why things have been so different. Like the Bernstein Bears,
Yes, I was just
the
thinking that. Bernstein Bears. Yes. I remember
Connected,
that as a kid.
connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, when I was young, I was like obsessed with Pokemon when I was a kid, and I was
Hmm.
always drawing the Pikachu. Like I love to do art and cartoons and stuff. So I remember always drawing his tail being a certain way, and then now they're saying it wasn't like that. And
Oh my
so
God.
I'm like, but it's burned into my brain. I know it. All these things that are just slightly different. That's the only explanation. Richard Simmons not wearing what's that called? A
The
headband.
headband. Yeah.
Yeah, not wearing a headband. How is that possible? You can't find a picture of it anywhere. How
That's,
does that exist?
I was just thinking, I was like, he wore a headband and you're saying he didn't. So it's like,
He didn't. Let me pull it up for you.
we just had a moment there. Because I was like, he wore a headband. And I want to say it was white. Wasn't it white?
Yeah, but
Right?
he doesn't in this reality. So let me bring it up for you.
Well, I probably
Look at that.
shifted like a gazillion
You see
timelines.
that?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, that's him.
Yep. That's him.
No
That's him.
headband, right?
That's
So,
wild. I think too, like if I remember correctly, I want to say with the Nelson Mandela, some people remember him dying in prison, right? Wasn't
yeah.
that the thing with him? It was like he died in prison, but he's still
Yeah.
alive, right? I hope he's like
Is he alive? I have to look at this
no,
now.
I know now I'm starting to question reality. I'm like, what
Is
is going on here?
Nelson Mandela still alive? Okay, so no, Nelson Mandela is not still alive. He passed away on December 5th, 2013, at the age of 95 at his home in Johannesburg, South Africa,
Why did I think
following
he
up.
was still alive? Wow. That was like, hi.
Hey.
Sorry, I'm
I
so
had a
late.
blonde moment. I thought Nelson Mandela was still alive.
Hold on just a
Oh,
moment. I apologize.
No
you
worries.
left us on our own and we just went haywire.
Okay.
So the Mandela effect is the phenomenon. Okay, yeah. I could pull up a bunch of these. I want to talk about them now.
Yeah, mine was, I
You,
always remember the Bernstein Bears. That was like the one that I remember.
We've kind of gone a little bit off the rails in this episode. So we've discussed dreams, visitations, a little bit of
Alternate
Mandela
reality.
effect, different reality.
it's
Yeah.
great, ladies. Um, I hate to be rude, but I'll be back just a second. I'm sorry. They're knocking at the door here.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Looney Tunes, not tunes.
Oh, yeah.
So how would you remember Looney Tunes to be spelled?
Wasn't it Looneytunes? I don't
Say
know.
the last one again.
Tunes.
That's
I'm
apparently
not.
how it's spelled, but I've always remembered it to be Looney Tunes, Toons.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
interesting.
it is.
Huh.
Oh, Curious George's tale.
I
Look
know.
at
I
all
love
these.
Curious George. He's such a cutie. Sorry. We're going on nostalgia now. Going
I
back to when I
know.
was a kid. But I don't know if you ever get this though. I feel like sometimes when I try to remember the past, like my childhood, it almost feels like it's not even me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like it belongs to someone else, if I can say it that way. Because I just feel like I've shifted so much, right?
You
That
just
it's
became a
like,
different person.
yeah, it's like it doesn't even feel like me anymore. I feel like
Yeah.
me, but like, who I was as a child, I'm like, I feel like a totally different person.
You know what
Robbie,
baffles me is I'm talking about. I'm sorry, Larry. Let me just say this real quick about childhood memories. Is that I had never like thought about this before until I heard somebody say it. Is that you don't really have any original memories in you. All you have is the memory of the last time you remembered it, right? And so that's how memories change. Is like I could say, well, I had $5, and did this, da da da. And then 20 years later, I think, well, I had $10 actually. And the next time I think about, no, I think it was
Good
15.
point.
So, while the core memory is still there, some details may change because you don't remember correctly. But anyway, go ahead, Lara. I'm sorry. That was an
I
interesting
wanted
thought.
to ask you because I feel like I botched what we talked about the other day. I brought up
No.
our conversation because we were getting all giddy and excited over the timelines. Can you explain the timeline shift that you and I believe took place? Do you remember that
Well,
conversation?
kind of a little bit, but we were in a session, and sometimes those are just channel things that don't come, that I don't remember. But I think for me, the way I felt it is I went to sleep feeling completely one way, woke up, not only did I feel differently, but there were things around me that had changed, right? Like I have a glass of water that I put down my bed by my bed every single night, and it wasn't there, right? There are little details like that that happen to me sometimes on a weekly basis that tells me I've jumped some sort of timeline. Okay. Did I
Cool.
freeze out or
You did,
No,
but
you're
we
good.
could hear you. You're good.
okay? Is that kind of what you were talking about?
Yes, but no. So what I'm talking about is we were talking about the CERN thing, remember? And how
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
possibly shifted
Yeah,
timelines.
I mean yeah, it's been a big theory that a lot of these started when CERN opened up, right? Because there were
Yes.
protests from the beginning of it saying you're going to open up black holes and you're going to suck in the earth and we're all going to die and there are again people conspiracy theories, okay, regular theories, okay, that say we did switch timelines and we actually may have all died, right? Because they destroyed the earth and just created another timeline. Now psychically or channeling whatever when I reach out there, I'm not saying that it's what I'm feeling is untrue. That okay, I just think there's more understanding that we need to dig into to figure out what it was exactly happened. Okay.
Mhm.
And I'm one of those people that I never doubt other people's abilities, no matter what they say or do. But there are
Yeah.
some people that present to know the whole answer, the whole solution, right? And it's been my experience, mine only, that's why I don't bash people, is that I don't always get the whole picture. Now,
Mhm.
Ashleigh may have part of it, and Lara may have part of it, and the three of us, we can complete the picture, right? But sometimes I can't see it. So yeah, I will really,
I
that's one of
agree
my
with that.
beliefs. That's one of my
Because sometimes
beliefs,
you're not supposed to know, right? Like,
right?
so I totally agree with what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Lara, did you botch it? I don't think you did. I don't think you did.
I like this episode. I think we need to do a part two and we need to get like Robbi in on, the craziness.
I am so sorry
Well,
that I
that's
ditched you
okay.
guys. I'm so
It was meant
sorry.
to be that way, right?
It
That's what
Then
was.
trust it, right?
It was.
then we were talking about how the Mandela effect might have been affected by these timeline shifts, and that's why things are different, right? Like things feel
Right.
different. Outside now, sometimes you're like, oh, it feels like 2003 a little bit. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's like, okay, no, we're still in the same timeline. Or like, we kind of get
Yeah.
those weird little impressions.
And there are, that to me, Mandela effects are kind of, and this is hard to say because you can't prove anything, right? But they're kind of evidence to me that there are subtle changes happening in our timeline. It's a butterfly effect, right?
Mhm.
That you
Ooh,
go
I love
and
that.
like, let's
Me
take
too.
the cornucopia Mandela effect, right? We talked about this the other day on the fruit of the loom. Wearing up, I
Yeah.
wore fruit of the
Searching
loom.
it
I
up.
know there was a damn cornucopia in there, right? But you can't find it anymore. Okay. And so it's like, hey, did it happen? Did it not? But um, let's say that there was a timeline jump and something small happened that caused that cornucopia not to be there, not by them removing it, just by there's some other change that happened that maybe the designer that designed it isn't living
Yep.
anymore because his parents were killed, whatever. So yeah, see,
Yeah.
It definitely had.
Do you
yeah.
It
guys
needs
ever,
to happen.
does it ever happen to you where you never see or hear or run into like people from childhood? Like there's certain people, never saw them, never hear from them, nothing. It's like they never existed. Does that ever happen to you
Yeah.
guys with like people that you've known? Like,
Now,
Yeah.
Robbie, you remember when we were saying how when you're not focused, your consciousness isn't focused on somebody that supposedly, what was the science
mm,
experiment you watched? That it doesn't exist when you're not in
No, it
full.
was it's a theory of there's a theory in quantum physics, right? That they're starting to prove that matter doesn't exist until it's observed. Okay.
that's right.
Which is a really freaky kind of thing to think about, right? That because I'm not looking at outside, it doesn't exist, but the minute I look there, it starts forming, right? But they've really started doing these experiments with atoms and protons and electrons where when not observing it, they act a certain way, but when it's observed, they change, right? It's like it's weird. But then my question, because it goes deeper, right, with me is, well, how can you experiment and actually get diagnostics on that if you're not observing it in the first place? Right? There's got to be some kind of observation. So my mind just goes kind of crazy, right? If there's some kind of
Mm.
quantum physics specialist or that can explain that to me, maybe I'm just dumb because I would think to take any kind of measurements, you would have to be observing it somehow. So how can you not observe it, then observe it, but still be able to take measurements? So that kind of blows my mind a little bit, right?
It kind of blows my mind because that made me think like my son's downstairs. What you're telling me is that he doesn't exist until I look at him. Like, I
Like
don't
he
know.
does, but he
Or hear
doesn't.
him, or even think about him, right? Because observing is not just seeing. Ah,
True.
it's
True.
feeling, it's
So maybe
hearing,
that's
it's
why all those
sensing.
people from your childhood don't exist in your life anymore because, and then
You
that kind of
create,
goes into the theory of like the simulation thing. Like if
yeah,
everything is
absolutely.
just a simulation. But who's controlling the simulation is what I really want to know.
Don't we all?
Like, have
Yeah.
you
Don't we
ever
all?
looked at the sky and like felt like you're seeing like a grid? Because I have
Yeah, absolutely.
sparkles, grids, like lines in it. And I'm just like, at
And
first I thought I
everywhere.
had bad eyes, but I think it's a normal thing.
Glitches in the
Yeah,
matrix.
yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I've done that before too. So, but to answer your question, who's coming? I think I joked about this with you the other day, is that, I'm just waiting that, when I die, that I could wake up and I'm actually some alien in a chair playing a game. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go do this again, right? And then my consciousness goes back into another game. It's a
You don't
joke,
want to
but
do Earth over again?
oh,
No.
no, I don't ever want to come back to this place. I mean, once I learned this lesson, I want to be done. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
even, I know this is the hardest I've had it, quite honestly.
yeah, it's definitely been a
Well,
whirlwind.
I'm really glad that you ladies had a really good podcast. I'm sorry I missed most of it, and let's do a part two for
We
sure.
should. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun this podcast.
Yeah, because we need your
See,
insights on some of the stuff we talked about.
okay, I will. I'll review the podcast. Okay, great.
Okay. Thanks for the fun today.
Yes. It was good times. I
Great.
can't
Bye,
believe it's like an
everybody.
hour.